says, who then is Paul and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom ye believe, even as the Lord gave to every man. I have planted, Apollos watered, but God, somebody say, but God, gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God, somebody say, but God, that giveth the increase. Now he that planteth and he that watereth are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with God. Ye are God's husbandry, ye are God's building. Today I want to talk about, just briefly, as we look at solution number 6 to divisions in the church, seeing who ministers really are. Seeing who ministers really are. Mount Zion, this is not one of your most favorite shouting messages. But I declare it is very needful, like castor oil, for the church of the living God. This Corinthian church was severely divided, and the division focused primarily upon the former preachers of the church, Peter, Paul, and Apollos. The ministers themselves were not involved in that division, but it was the carnal believers in the church causing the problem. Last week we talked about the three stages of man, the natural man, the spiritual man, and the carnal man. But some, like Peter and his preaching, and they felt he was doing more for the Lord. The others felt the same about Paul. Others felt the same about Apollos. But the issue of which preacher was best and is best for a church is always a critical issue. And so the reason is simply understood. Every believer has his favorite minister. The minister who led him to the Lord, or to a deeper commitment, or ministered to him and his family, or who really spoke to his heart when he preached. A minister who becomes deeply involved in a person's life is bound to mean a great deal to that person. This needs to be understood, and however, something else needs to be understood as well. Believers must not pit one minister against another, or exalt one minister over another, focus upon ministers' gifts and ignore the other gifts of other ministers, or talk about and emphasize one minister over another, favor one minister over another, or form a clique around a minister. This happened in the Corinthian church. And apparently they were trying to determine what kind of minister was best for them and their church. And so the discussion had flowed over into the homes, into the social gatherings, and the opinions had become so strong that cliques were actually forming and arguing against each other about which minister they liked or disliked. And so there are several things out of this passage that Paul points out to us as we look at this position on seeing who ministers really are. The average believer really don't understand what a minister or who a minister really is. But I'm glad you asked, because today I'll share it with you. The first one is, verse 5, he says, in the text he says, who then is Paul and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom ye believe, even as the Lord gave to every man. So the word ministers means a servant, an attendant, or a waiter. The stress is upon the lowly status of the servants, and ministers are not lords over God's flock and the church. They are the lowly servants.
All right.
And for all of you think you call a preacher, I'm not picking on anybody, but this is the truth. You have to learn how to be the lead servant.
Come on.
If you are in leadership, you have to learn how to be the lead servant.
All right.
And so they are the servants of God and the servants of God's people. And 2 points about servanthood is stressed here, because that ministers can help people only as God gifts them. And so the gifts of the ministry are not natural abilities and endowments. The gifts to proclaim the gospel and to minister to people are not of the preacher. They are spiritual gifts given only by God. And the minister can only serve effectively when God gives him the gifts of his spirit. Because if I had my own way, I would not be a preacher, pastor. Somebody ought to say amen. If I had my own way, I was headed to medical school. I would not be a preacher, pastor. That's not my profession, or I would have been a politician. But because of what God does on the inside, I have to deal with what he does.
All right, go ahead. All right.
I love politics. I love medicine too, but I love politics. I did something different. But because of what God is and what he does and how he gives. And so when God gives us the gifts of his spirit, therefore the man, the minister himself as a person has nothing in which the people can glory. So the gifts are of God and of God alone. Therefore the people are to focus their thoughts and praise upon God alone. It's all right. I know because I've been around Negro Baptists a little while, so I know they're praising when things are going right, but when things go wrong, they're crucified.
Amen.
That's why your attention and focus need to be on him, not on me. I am just the vessel. I'm just the gift God has given to Mount Zion Church. Don't focus on me, focus on him.
All right.
That's right. Go ahead, Pastor.
And so we're only gifts. Secondly, because I need the cooperativeness of the congregation. There's several passages I want you to look at. Ministers of God are nothing in comparison to God. That's number 2. Ministers are nothing in comparison to God. Look at verse 6 and 7. 6 says, I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. What does such a strong statement mean? Simply this: no minister has any cause for glory or praise or honor or recognition. There is no room for stars. No reason for a minister to feel pride and self-satisfaction. No reason for a person or people to idolize and follow a minister. No reason for people to make a minister the cause of favoritism or strife and division. Respect the minister.
That's right.
Yes, love him.
All right.
Yes,